In the webinar today, we are going to talk about revolutionizing marketing with email automation. Now, email is one of those things that was very, very fashionable some decade or two ago, but has obviously been overshadowed in more recent times by the little thing that we call social media. Having said that, it is seeing a bit of a renaissance. And I think because of the concept of automation, we're able to use email in a really kind of both strategic and tactical way, very, very effectively to supplement or complement some of the other marketing channel communications that we do. And for me, that is why we're seeing a bit of a revolution again with email marketing. So what I'm going to talk about in the session today is just really the ability that email has that many channels don't, and that is creating valuable and personal touches at scale. That was a quote from David Newman, creating valuable personal touches at scale. And for me, that really encapsulates why we can sort of see the scalability and the personalization, the essence of those things within email marketing, particularly when it's automated and the kind of things that it can achieve, because it will set the stage for us here in this session to deep dive into how it can transform your email marketing into really highly effective and efficient tools for engaging your audiences, fostering a narrative maybe around innovation, personalization, and efficiency. So all of those key themes and trends that we're seeing within our marketing communications right now. So it really is back with force as a key player. So that's kind of really what I want to be talking to you about in this session. So let's begin really with an introduction to email automation. And so what I want you to think about really is how, and let's use some examples as we go through this, because often with something like this, we all know what email is, we all know what automation is. So actually thinking about this in a much more practical sense can often give us a really good kind of grasp of some of the practicalities that we can then translate into what we might need. So think of a startup. Think of a startup and how they might automate, say, welcome emails. And think about how that might lead to perhaps something like and I've seen examples of this, a 50% increase in conversions. So think about that. Welcome emails that can be automated and sent out that can actually drive conversion. So as somebody comes through to your website, for example, they can be subscribing to your newsletter or subscribing for more information, or maybe giving you their email address in return for some value. So it could be a document, it could be a white paper, it could be some form of inquiry. And the chances are, if you can automate that, so you then automatically then return an email to that person based on them giving you their email address that actually gives them a huge amount of value, it potentially then can actually be in itself a call to action that will trigger then further behavior that you want them to do. So it takes them deeper on the customer journey, potentially allowing them to then convert or actually sign up for whatever it is that you want. Now, there's a really good, I'm going to introduce a few kind of platforms and tools for each of these ideas as we go, so that you can, again, make this very, very practical and go and do a little bit of research. Now, the ideal platform for this kind of automated welcome emails is something called ConvertKit. If you search ConvertKit, that's a great platform that's ideal for small businesses and startups. And I know a lot of you listening to this would benefit from doing a little bit of research into that tool. So that's really what we mean by automation. It's kind of automatically sending something in response to an action that your particular target audience has done. Now, if you're doing this as part of some kind of e-commerce or some kind of shopping experience, I mean, use the example. What if an e-commerce site's use of abandoned cart emails resulted in a maybe even 25% recovery rate? What would that do? So as people go through a purchase process and then they just give up, they just stop or they move away. But because they've had to give their email address as they've gone through that process, if you again can automate that little kind of, hey, we saw that you, and you've probably experienced this, hey, we've seen that you've, abandoned the cart. And was there a particular reason for that? What can we do to help you? And can you imagine And actually, again, a lot of the statistics, and Klaviyo is a really, really good tool here. I mean, if you've got a WordPress site, you might be using WooCommerce, for example. And there are a lot of embedded email automation templates, like as there are in Klaviyo, that will be highly effective in getting somebody back onto that customer journey. So that's, again, a really nice example that you can research if you want to then, as people drop out of the customer journey, and let's face it, who wants to lose them? You want to get them back on board. You want to get them back into the journey. So that can be a nice way of thinking, well, where could I plug email in to the customer journey? And just the clarity of a shopping experience that we've all encountered can be a really neat one to kind of get your head around how that might work for you, even if you don't have an e-commerce site. So let's think about kind of email automation really in action. I mean, how might a service provider, for example, that segmented its audience for personalized service reminders, how might they boost re-engagement? Because, you know, once you've sold a service to somebody, be it they've come to an event, or maybe this is the warranty or the customer support you give them after they've purchased a product. Well, obviously, it goes without saying that you can then automate the follow-up. So maybe 6 months after purchase, they get an automated email follow-up that can boost re-engagement, maybe trigger off how to get great value from the product or service that they've previously purchased. And of course, this kind of thing we often see when we take out a warranty or some kind of extended warranty. There is this email automation that happens. And so this isn't a marketer sat there thinking, right, who are we going to approach today? The system itself is automatically sending out these reminders. And of course, that automation is a highly efficient way, again, within the customer journey, to then get those prompted feedback points where your customer then re-engages with you. Active Campaign, which is known for advanced segmentation capabilities, allows you then to maybe have different emails automated for different customer groups. So maybe that could be they're a different persona, or it could be that they live in a different geography, or it could be they've purchased a slightly different version of a service or product, and they get a customized automated email back at specific points in time post-purchase. Again, think about how you might want to use that yourself. Of course, understanding your audience is really, really key here. So think again, another example could be, think about how an online retailer's use of a customer's purchase history might enable them to be able to segment and then personalize emails to increase repeat purchases. So if you've got a CRM system, and again, perfect example here is HubSpot, which is a very, very comprehensive CRM and embedded email marketing integration platform. Again, HubSpot, as you're probably aware, produce a lot of documentation, lots of great case studies and examples of how you can actually bring together the concept of monitoring customer behavior and then personalizing and, again, automating the emails based on those behaviors. So again, there's no kind of intervention from you as a marketer. This is stuff you set up in advance as a series of rules within something like HubSpot, so that a particular customer purchasing a particular product or service at a particular point in time post-service, very different to every other customer, they get a very specific email that's sent out. And again, if you think about how that might help with repeat purchases or future engagement, that can be a really, really strong way of getting the best, and we call it CLV, customer lifetime value, from that individual customer. Now, of course, if you think about how you can craft a strategy around this, so a longer term view, think about, for example, how a marketing agency might design maybe a year-long automation strategy for a client, leading to consistent lead generation. Market 2 is a really good one. That's Market with the letter O after it, is a very, very good platform for doing these kind of automation strategies. And that's well known for its scalability and very robust analytics. So this is all about kind of understanding and deciding Why would I want to do this email automation? What is it that we're trying to create here? Is it developing the brand? Is it increasing the amount of connection points, for example, that we have over a spaced period of time with a particular customer group? I mean, if I'm a marketing agency, can I offer this kind of automation strategy as part of my client offering? Because if I can then enable that to lead to consistent lead generation for my clients, well, what's not to like? The ROI, the return on investment here could be very planned, and it could be, forecasted way in advance, which again, from that agency's perspective, gives them a huge amount of value in the storytelling of the value they're going to be bringing to their clients. Now, of course, this becomes part of a series of options that we have here. All of the things that we're talking about here for e-commerce, for customer journey, for planning out, a series of strategic touch points with customers over time. The options really available to you are to be comparing features, pricing, and support of the variety of different email platforms that you have available to you based on the kind of goals that you have. So, we've already touched on 4 or 5 different areas that you can use email automation for. So I would suggest looking at the pricing, the features, the support that you're going to get of things like MailChimp. And we're going to come on to MailChimp in a lot more detail, because I'm going to show you that and kind of the things that you can build within something like MailChimp to help with your automation. But of course, you've got Klaviyo that we've mentioned there, HubSpot that we've mentioned, Active Campaign is another good one, ConvertKit another, and Market2. And if you then look and compare those kind of features and see what pricing matches your needs, it's the best place to start. So a lot of these do have a low hanging sort of, not necessarily free, but a very kind of budget friendly sort of non-premium version that allows you to kind of dip your toe in the water of this kind of concept of email automation. And my go-to is always MailChimp, because almost being best in class, they're a great kind of benchmarking service. And then go and compare the others as well, because the others might provide you with something that maybe is a little more in line or aligned with, say, your CRM system that you've already got. And it might be able to integrate a little bit more effectively than MailChimp, for example. But you need to be doing the research and finding out what is going to work for you. And then by doing that, you can then set up your first campaign. Now, think about, again, as an example here, maybe a non-profit organization, and think about how they might create a successful awareness campaign using automated emails that are linked to website inquiries. So as somebody puts in the contact form, hey, we'd like to engage with you, and maybe some of the events that you're running as a non-profit organization, as they give them your customer details. If you're this non-profit, you get the name, you get the inquiry, maybe they tick a few boxes, which again pre-filters and pre-selects who they are and what they're interested in. And then of course you get that little golden nugget, the email address. Something like a platform like Sendinblue can be really, really interesting there, for its very user-friendly campaign setup. It will allow you as a platform to go in, start to test how you can start to build the connection between this connection form or contact form on your website and then the kind of responses you'd like to give. And of course, this is then the starting of a campaign. Now, as you build this up, you'll realize very, very quickly that you will want to not do one size fits all. So you'll be thinking and crafting something that allows you to do some level of personalization and segmentation. So actually segmenting down to different types of customers based on their completion of that contact form. Think, for example, if you were a fitness app that personalizes workout suggestions, you could do this via email. So if you knew the data behind how a certain group of individuals were using the app, you could then send them out very specific and very personalized recommendations for workout, sort of plans, if you like, via email. And this in itself could lead to higher app engagement and usage, and from a commercial perspective, enable you to then maybe cross-sell or maybe upsell other products or services. Now, if this upsell and cross-selling is a thing that you think, oh, actually, that's good, because then that's commercial lead generation using email, then the platform of choice could be something like Campaign Monitor. This has very dynamic and very customizable content features. So when you go into something like Campaign Monitor, it builds on the previous example of Send in Blue and gives you an opportunity here to kind of define campaigns within campaigns. In other words, real personalization and customized responses via email that will actually then allow you to really kind of give the customer a sense that they're getting something that's very, very specific or customized to them. And of course, that in itself then builds the trust and builds the level of engagement, which then triggers on the opportunity to cross-sell and upsell. And of course, for a particular customer group that could be different to another one, the upsell and cross-sell products, again, will be different. So this enables you to sort of really fine-tune so that the storytelling, as well as the branding, as well as the journey, as well as the actual products and services you include in those emails to trigger off this engagement and hopefully purchase, can be very precisely targeted. So that's why we want to do this stuff, because it does inevitably lead on to the whole idea of actually one-to-one targeting ultimately. Now, you probably wouldn't do that, and that's why we do persona creation, because it allows us to then target a group of people who are pretty much like one person because they're behaving like this persona. So that enables us to do it at scale. But the mindset here is really, really personalized down to a one-to-one level, but then we take it upstream one level just so that we can then make this more manageable, because we probably don't have the time, the resource, or the inclination to try and actually do customized on a one-to-one level. So that's why we do personas. And so what we're trying to do here is to do trigger-based email automation. Okay, so there's a phrase for you to think about: trigger-based email automation. What are the trigger points when you're planning out the journey, either through the campaign or the broader customer journey? What are those trigger-based points that you would want to then be emailing out as a response to? So this could be customer onboarding, for example. In other words, somebody's sent an email directly after purchasing a very specific product, and that will be different to other products that they might have also purchased. But then they get this very specific automated email that comes out based on the trigger of the purchase. So this is immediately after. And in essence, you could then say, well, actually, if we give instructions for how to use, or joining instructions or onboarding instructions based on this particular product purchase, that trigger of that product purchase could then significantly improve retention and use of that service or that product. Now, a really nice one that you can play with here, if this kind of trigger-based email automation sounds interesting, is Autopilot. And that's got a visual journey builder. So as I keep mentioning this idea of triggers and touch points, when you want to send out automated emails, if you are building a journey here of touch points, so you're actually going click by click, moment by moment, maybe it is literally time moment, or it could be click moment, or it could be step moment within a website purchase or post-purchase. To do that in a visual building of the journey using something like Autopilot can be a very nice way of doing this in a way that keeps you understanding that customer experience. Because as you start to build this out, probably what you're already thinking is, actually, this is going to get really complex, or it's going to get really detailed, or, well, there are many, many steps. I can't really see this. I can't see the wood from the trees. So something like Autopilot will allow you to do this visually. And then, of course, then you can start to decide which are the key trigger-based points actually in this journey that I would need or want to actually be sending emails through. And then you can actually visually see those in the wider journey. And you can also then start to think about crafting compelling content as you actually then create this journey, because certain types of content going out through these emails are going to be very different at different points in the journey. So think again, for an example here, might be think how a travel agency could increase bookings through engaging storytelling in maybe an email series that it shares with its customers. Now, you often see this kind of lifestyle approach. You often see this in, say, upmarket hotels, for example, or destinations or venues. They do a lot of storytelling around the more kind of ethereal experience that you get. So a travel agency might think, okay, somebody's purchased this particular service from us, or they've booked onto this particular holiday package. Now, as a series of automated emails, we can start to craft some very kind of trigger-based points, if you like, on their journey through between actually doing the booking and actually then taking the experience in the real world. Aweber is a really, really good one, and this has got some great design templates that you can explore here. And I recommend, if you're looking to do this kind of more storytelling narrative as part of these trigger-based emails, that could be a nice one to begin to play with as well. Obviously, there are many, many different platforms. As I say, we're going to go deep into MailChimp in just a minute, but these are kind of ones that will give you a sense of really what's possible as we're kind of exploring all of these different options. Now, when it comes to then designing these emails, okay, so we've thought about, creating the journey, deciding what the trigger points are, starting to think about the kind of narrative or the messaging behind them. Then we need to be thinking about the design and aesthetics, if you like, of the email that we're going to send. Now, MailChimp has got some great templates in here. And another one that's really, really strong, that is very much designed around inspiring click-through rates. And you can do a lot of A/B testing. We're going to talk about the A/B testing in just a moment, but constant contact. And again, this is another one of the big players in the email space. And it has a big, big focus on design and aesthetics. It gives you an opportunity here to test different design styles. So you might put the same content at the same trigger point for the same customer persona group at the same point in their journey. But actually what you do is, for half of them, you send one design style, to the other half you send a different design style, or maybe you mix and match it a little bit so they get a random selection. And then you watch through the analytics of something like Constant Contact, the difference that you see in response rates, the difference you see in click-through rates or engagement, or even open rates, for example, a little bit further upstream in the analytics. So designing the email is all about continuous improvement. You won't get it right first time, but that's the beauty of it. A lot of these platforms allow this kind of deep testing and optimization. Another one that's very strong on the A/B testing, which I just mentioned, is GetResponse. They've got a few tutorials and a few examples on their website of, best practice A/B testing, which really feeds into the design and aesthetics, the content that you're going to put into there, and also even actually the trigger points, because you're going to make some assumptions before you start this as to the kind of the right points for sending these automated emails out. And you might not get that right first time. So something like GetResponse will always be there, triggering off, suggestions and recommendations and sending you the analytics that's going to enhance and increase the open rates and the click-through rates and the engagement over time. So that's really your goal here, is not to be thinking, I'm going to actually follow all these instructions using all of these tools and we'll get it right first time. It is an ongoing iterative process. And that's a really great mindset to have with this. Over time, you will get better and better, but continuous improvement is everything. Now, if you think about some of the sort of things that I've been describing here, the word automation has come through loud and clear. You do not want to be spending all of your time. You've got other things to do. So if you can automate this stuff really, really sort of cleverly by plotting out the journey, figuring out those key trigger points, optimizing it for the target audience, you can then start to, for what are potentially quite complex automation sequences, you can then start to really understand and really watch how those customers are engaging with this journey, all the time through email, all the time through email automation. A lot of us have got very, very, I guess, blindsided by Google Analytics for our websites, by social media insights, and we've forgotten the value that email brings in the whole kind of marketing channel journey. So it's here to help us. It really is. And it's here. I mean, again, if you think of an example of maybe a SaaS company that maps out email sequences right across its customer life cycle, would that help it reduce churn to a like-minded competitor that has very much the same kinds of products? You know, if it is keeping that engagement constantly through the customer's life cycle, would that help to reduce churn? Because it's always keeping that customer and that brand aligned. And so it's always front of mind in the customer's view. The likelihood is, yes, it would. It would reduce churn because you're going to be with somebody and you're going to stick with somebody because the cost to change with something like a SaaS kind of commitment is actually way too high, really. And so as long as you can keep that engagement, just keep on their radar as a customer, then you stand a really good chance of winning the deal the next time, or maybe the upgrade, and that loyalty will build over time. And the other thing you can use it for as well is, we've talked a lot here about, new customers, but actually building the email list. So making sure that you're sort of organically growing an engaged email list. It is vital to add value through these sign up incentives that we're talking about here. So leverage social media channels, host webinars or events, send out white papers or brochures. And again, if thought leadership is something in play here, using something like, again, HubSpot, which has comprehensive inbound marketing tools that will facilitate building the list through these kinds of content offers, maybe even within it, creating little landing pages. Maybe it serves in itself some of this high value content. If you're a thought leader, this is the kind of thing you're going to be doing, building your email list. And of course, the integration with social media channels can be very, very simply done. So as you publish a piece of content out through socials, the data collection tool here, HubSpot as this example, will enable you to then capture email addresses for this automated follow-up that we're talking about. So over time, what you need to be doing, as well as actually putting stuff out there, is just getting really obsessed by building the high quality engagement through building the email list that you have and that you're crafting. So make sure that you're monitoring the number of people who are staying engaged with you by monitoring unsubscriptions, by monitoring, those kind of soft bounces or even hard bounces where the data is constantly being cleansed each time you send something out. That's really key. So HubSpot, MailChimp, and these kind of high level and sort of premium, if you like, emails automation services, these guys are going to be doing this stuff for you automatically. So again, you set it up the once, you set this thing in action based around the customer journey, and then you watch. So your role becomes less about the production of stuff and more about the observations and then the evaluation of what you see. So it is about measuring success, KPIs, being very, very clear on your key performance indicators. These are absolutely critical for you doing this properly. So, what kind of things would come in as your KPIs? Well, open rates, click-through rates, conversion rates. Yes, obviously, those things are KPIs, but a key one is ROI. How do those KPIs actually then play out to the actual return on the investment in that subscription to that email service, or into the time that you and your colleagues are spending creating the content to put out on these emails? You've got to see an ROI. The best platform probably for monitoring this is Campaign Monitor, I would suggest, because it's got some very, very user-friendly A/B testing features that I mentioned before, but a very comprehensive analytics dashboard that will enable you to measure and optimize the campaigns that you're doing really effectively. MailChimp, which we're going to see in a minute, I'm going to take you through a few screenshots of some of the key pages within MailChimp. Again, very, very good. And what you definitely need as you're doing this and as you're measuring and monitoring success, making those little improvements and really just continuously improving everything you're doing with your emails, is to also be thinking about the legal and compliance issues and best practice. Now, you need to be doing GDPR. You need to be storing the data really, really authentically and really in a secure way. Now, all of the email platforms will have an emphasis on GDPR compliance. They will have an emphasis on storing and allowing the customer to take control over their data, to unsubscribe at any one time. And these are key features. If you do this literally on your own platform, or you do this and you try to administer this yourself, there's a lot of background stuff you need to set up to be compliant. The beauty of subscribing to any one of these services that I've mentioned, the big guys, the smaller, more specific services that I've mentioned to you to research, is that these guys have already done the hard yards for you. So that's already set up for you, allowing you to do this and really concentrate on that front end, creating the journey and then mapping out those trigger points where you want to input this email automation. So how is this all this stuff going to play out in the future? Because a lot of what we're talking about here has been in place for quite some time. Now, a lot of this isn't new. Some of these services are relatively new and they're getting better and better all the time. And the reason that they're getting better is because they are embracing predictive personalization. So they're using AI, and this is going to have a very positive impact on both the way that your customers respond to the data, the way that they are being served up with data at the right kind of time, and the machine learning that are features that are already being integrated into platforms like Salesforce Marketing Cloud, like into MailChimp and others, are going to allow us then to have a lot of confidence, if you like, that as we begin to integrate email into other marketing channels as well, and brands like HubSpot allow you to integrate and explore what we call multi-channel integration, so that you can then be basically serving your customer in a way that is really on their terms, so that they can actually then get the content from you either by email, by social. It can get delivered straight through to an app that you might have. It might come through as a personalization area on the website that you're serving to them, etc., etc. Services like HubSpot now are using this predictive AI machine learning within their systems to allow you to integrate it. And it's super sophisticated. It's really, really clever. But the beauty of it is that you don't need to worry. You just need to own the customer relationship, decide on the style and tone of voice of the content, but definitely plot out the automation journey and those trigger points. Can you see there's a real pattern here, that is the key thing that you need to be doing, is you own and are the custodian of the journey, and these tools come in to then serve that journey with the automation. It's not the other way around. You don't fit your business around them, they fit around you, and that's where it starts to get really clever. So how do they do that? What are the things that they're offering up to you? Well, I've just got a few little points here within the MailChimp platform, which is my kind of go-to, if you like, because it does allow you to play with all of these different features. So they allow you to convert with email automations that you can set up. They allow you to build the journey within the platform. They will allow you to create faster the content and the generation with generative AI. So you have got embedded AI here to help you write the kind of content that will then serve these email automations. You can obviously, as you would expect, and you have been able to do this for quite some time, segment down your audience. And that can be based around the preferences that they've ticked as an audience. So they've basically subscribed into certain types or elements of your service, or you've done the detailed CRM integration yourself and you've understood how you want to segment, so they can self-segment or you can do it for them. But it allows you in MailChimp to be able to define that. And then you can optimize with real-time analytics and reporting. So as you send out either on a manual basis, or you watch your dashboard for the automated emails that are going out in real time, you can see down to an individual account level, down to an individual email address, you can see how they are or not engaging with and responding to the emails that you're sending. So it's so powerful. So you've basically, under one roof on one platform, got everything that we've talked about. So this is the menu structure. This is what you see when you actually go in and begin to explore this. So you've got a campaign manager, which allows you to specify some different and individual campaigns based on your strategy or your tactics or your goals. You can set up the journeys. You can set up these automations that I've been describing. You can go down and get deep with your audience. You can see there's a lot of segmentation going on. There's a range of different kind of elements, if you like, of the audience dashboard. And you can set up subscriber preferences so they can self-select into particular areas of your audience. So they'll then be served with certain things. So there's a lot of sophistication there. And then the big stuff is the analytics. Obviously, a lot of reports down to an individual email level, but then higher upstream to some sort of more generic reporting. And of course, benchmarking against the typical kind of responses that you would expect to get within your industry. That's a neat feature. So you can always be benchmarking how yours is performing versus others. And of course, it allows MailChimp then to make suggestions for you to improve your activities going forward. And that one is really key, because otherwise it is just you and MailChimp. Whereas actually it's you, MailChimp, and the rest of the industry that you've specified you're in. So you can then get recommendations from MailChimp automatically based on how your particular emails are performing. And you can also set up custom reports. If at any point or any trigger point you want to see something in more detail, you can set that up too. And of course, there would be, as you'd expect, integrations with other platforms. There's the content creator there, and we'll have a little look at some of the things you can put into that. And you can also create website landing pages. So if you want to keep everything nice and neat and within the platform, rather than losing the analytics to, be firing off to maybe other web pages or something like that, you can keep it all under one roof within this process. So it's really quite nice. So it will say, if you click on the create button at the top of that page, it'll say, okay, create something. What do you want to create? So would you like to design an email? Would you want to go and create a journey, or would you like to build a landing page? So you can start by using, and it's a very templated approach. I mean, you can customize the templates, but they're already there, pre-populated. MailChimp already knows what works. So you're going to get a real helping hand there. And my recommendation would be try all three. Try some automation, create a landing page, do an email using the email template, and do some little practice, practice publishing and posts, and send them to yourself. See how they look. That's the really neat thing about this. And you can build these things up step by step. The way that they'll do it is they will say, okay, who are you sending the email to? Who's sending the email? Because it might be you want to customize who this is coming from. So it might be that you've got a named individual that you put into the automation, or it could be from your brand generally. Obviously, you can then customize the subject line. You can customize exactly when they'll get it. And again, you can do that based on a particular trigger or a particular point. If you're doing a campaign, it could be a day of the week, a time of the day. And again, you can help get MailChimp to help you with looking at the big data that sits behind this. And then, of course, design the content. And for most of us, that's what we want to try and get into. But for me, the whole kind of thing about being led by, and again, you do, if you want the really detailed recommendations and the real detailed support, you do need to upgrade to a slightly higher level monthly plan. But it does give you the opportunity here to be led by MailChimp, because it knows, we can make a lot of assumptions, but basing this on real facts and real data enables us to be able to do something and get some quick wins really early. And that's really important. And then we get into the design of things. Again, it's very, very click and drop, drag and drop. So it's a very simple thing for non-technical people to be creating this. And it's a very similar way in terms of the journey and the trigger points that we were talking about earlier. A lot of this is very, very intuitive. You're not going to be the first person in your sector using something like MailChimp to do this. So they've been there before you. So it's very, very simple to just be led by the process. So literally work your way through step by step. And you can build it up so that you can add in your color scheme, your branding, your logo, your fonts, your styling, and of course, then with the content, your tone of voice as well. And then having published each of your emails out through maybe a campaign, as we're looking at the example of a campaign here. There are some very, very detailed reports. You can get some high-level reports, so you can download all reports for a particular campaign or do a deep dive into a particular email that's gone out. And you can see here there are some very variable responses here. One particular email that was sent out here had a higher open rate, but very, very few click-throughs, whereas one that got a slightly lower open rate had a higher level of click-throughs. So again, it's all about looking at the little nuances of each campaign. But the beauty of it is you don't have to spot things. You don't have to do all the hard work. Let MailChimp and other services like this obviously are available, but let the platform give the recommendations about where you need to focus. Your role is in evaluation, not analysis. Let the platform do the analysis, and then your role is to use that and evaluate it so you can come up with some best practice as to what you want to then do next with it. So get deeper and insights into metrics that matter to you. Custom reports let you choose the metrics you want to dig deeper into so you can get more from your data. Choose your metrics, group your data, see trends over time. This is the essence of all of these platforms. And in many ways, email gives you something that a lot of other channels that you might be working with or choosing right now don't. It's this level of integration and this level of kind of interpretation of what's actually going on that is so super accurate that we often cannot get elsewhere. You know, Google Analytics allows us to do this if you can get your head around Google Analytics and GA4, which has become complicated. Let's face it, it really is. But with something like email, it is still very, very logical. It's very flow based. It's very simple and straightforward in many ways. These systems are not complicated to do, but they do give you deep insights, and that allows you to get better and better and better, and ultimately show and demonstrate to the business the ROI in a very straightforward and simple way. And that, for me, is probably the reason why I still love email. I still think it is one of those things that goes straight to the target customer. They've been able to opt in because, of course, that is all part of this, and the platforms will decide that that is an opt-in for you. But it's just the way that they then, as a platform, it's the way they report back in like no other way is possible. No other channels do this right now, but email does. So I'm still really, really keen to sort of explore and play with this as a channel that will really, really position you as a really strong, data-fueled, evidence-based marketer. And let's face it, that's really where we're all trying to get to. So to round off, what would I recommend you do next? Well, I've given you a lot of platforms to go away and think about and research and look at some of the best practice and the tutorials. But the top considerations really as to whether you're ready for email automation. Think about segmentation. Have you broken your marketplace and your customer base and those you want to be targeting down into different segmented personas? If you have, you could be finding the time is right. Have you plotted the customer journeys for each one of those persona or segments? If you have and you've got one to play with, the time for email automation could be right. Have you figured out in that customer journey what each call to action is, a single call to action at each point? Remember, we were talking about the trigger points? Those are the things. What do I want somebody to do next? Can I use at that trigger point in the journey? Can I use an email just to stimulate a few more people to do it? If the answer is yes, then that's the point that email automation might cut in. Have you found a platform that is going to help to serve this customer journey and these call to actions or trigger points for that particular customer persona? And if the answer is yes, then it's time to get down and deep into some of those examples that I was just sharing with you for MailChimp. And do I know what, from all of the above, I'd like to continuously improve? And ultimately, it is about the ROI. It is about selling back into the business. We can do email because, look, it's measurable. And look, it's going to give us an opportunity here to be able to just fine tune everything we do and just get better and better at every step. And of course, ultimately, if that leads to inquiries and new business and more profit and more sales, the business is going to love you. So if that is on your radar right now, then I would say email automation has got a part to play. So my final kind of rounding off quote would be, in the world of email, engagement is the currency of choice. So invest wisely, automate intelligently, and watch your relationships and results flourish.